You are listening to the book, Answering the Call, Making Sense of It and Taking Ownership of the Journey, authored and read by Nadu Denloye. The printed version was released in 2016. To quote the writer of the foreword, this book is about the profound life experiences of a child of God as she seeks to become the best that the Creator intended her to be. The proceeds of the book go towards 6 ministries the Nadu Denloye Trust has been supporting. I'm pleased to say that we have successfully disbursed the 3rd tranche of annual payments to these ministries this year, 2018. With your support, I hope to be able to sustain this giving for as long as I can. I've made this audio recording of the book, read by me, to further encourage your gifts or donation to the Trust. Gifts, donations of any amount will be kindly welcome and can be paid directly to SITL/the Nadu Denloye Trust, Stanbic IBTC Bank, account number 001-698-9514. Please feel free to share this audio recording widely, and thank you so much for your support. Part 2. Making Sense of It All. The Lord led me, Genesis 24:27, and on looking back, I see the presence of an amazing design. I continue with the premise that God is sovereignly working His will in our lives. Stay with me as I share how I have made sense of my path to heeding His call. Part 2, Chapter 5. Connecting the Dots. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Steve Jobs. We live life forward, but understand it backwards is a phrase credited to philosopher Søren Kierkegaard. It is one of those profound statements that I have truly come to identify with. Indeed, the meaning of life unfolds one step at a time. It was not until I approached my 50th birthday and was reflecting on what had been happening in my life that I began to make sense of the journey. I began to understand the process and the progression through the phases that had been taking place. Undeniably, that is what life is, a process and a progression. I began to comprehend how I had gotten to where I was. I also began to sense that God was leading me to a new place, that it was time to relinquish my position as Group Managing Director of Telnet, a company I had co-founded. To what and for what was not quite clear in my mind. The following is an excerpt from what I wrote to colleagues at work in January 2006 as I announced my decision to retire at the end of that year. Reflecting on my life on turning 50, I can see the various decades of my life to date as distinct chapters. And through it all, I've come to realize that life is all about relationships. Our relationship with God, others, and ourselves, all within the framework of love and fellowship. Our identity and purpose are inextricably tied to our relationships. As I reflect on the journey thus far, I find that the first decade, 0 to 9, was largely influenced by family, the one whom God, in His infinite wisdom and plan, chose for me to be born into. The period was essentially one of dependence and imbibing the basic values formed from the experiences and exposure within that family environment. These have played a large part in shaping the who that I am. The second decade, 10 to 19, I would say, was the formative part of my life, shaping in large part the what that I am, laying the foundation for the network that I have, some of my closest friends, and my career path in life. I thank God for the choices that I made, the secondary school that I went to, and the choice, of course, of study in the university. I'd never really understood the significance of this period till now, and I thank God for His amazing grace that while I was blind, He was there, steadily guiding my path according to His purpose. On to the third decade, 20 to 29, one of independence and enlargement, having a job, marriage, being a parent, and the broader network of associations through marriage and work life, plus the added responsibilities thereof. The fourth decade, 30 to 39, a period of growth through fellowship and facing the challenges of life based on the strong family foundation and values, and particularly the invaluable support of my husband. A period of expanding the boundaries of connections through business associations. The fifth decade, 40 to 49, a most significant period, one of self-awareness, rebirth and renewal, being born of the Spirit, a period of change and tremendous learning and growth from God granting my request for a closer walk with Him, a period of growing revelation into my calling and purpose in life, a period of reaching out to others. And 50, here I am. With amazing grace, He has opened my eyes to see, to gain understanding of my journey through life and an understanding of the times, an understanding that it is time to move on. And so it is that I intend to bow out at the end of this year, 2006. The time is right, even now, to pursue that calling that He has been preparing me for. I look back 10 years since then, and I have come to identify and become even more sensitive to God's working in my life, how He has been forming me into the leader He wants me and indeed all of us to be. As Dr. W.E. Sangster said, looking back and sensing you have been divinely guided is like a faint mountain track which twists and turns and is hardly discernible when you are descending it. But looking back from the bottom of the valley, it is a definite stripe on the mountainside. My leadership model. The starting point for understanding my leadership journey within the context of the progression of my life was from reading the book The Making of a Leader by Dr. J. Robert Clinton. I read this in 2008, about 15 months after I retired. These days, I like to think of it as a change of career and lifestyle. In his book, Dr. Clinton pinpoints 4 phases of leadership development. I identified very clearly with his description of phases 1 and 2 and the transition from phase 1 to 2, and could see some elements of phase 3 emerging. With this understanding, and against the backdrop of the underlying pattern of the human life cycle, I have come to an intuitively derived model of the leadership journey based on my own personal life experience. The model is a ladder of developmental stages along the path of life. Every stage has its own primary season, but progression is not simply in a linear fashion from one stage to another without going back. In each stage, the imperatives of previous stages continue to play out and are either reinforced or there's a cycling back to rework them where they have not been adequately ingrained. To listen and download this audiobook for free, please go to soundcloud.com or youtube.com and search for Answering the Call.
If you would like to make further inquiries about this audio recording or the ebook or print versions of the book, kindly send an email to answeringthecallaudio@gmail.com. Thank you.